And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't know what I'm talking about, it's dirty and filthy in here tonight with Gwar's Ragnarok. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen? Let me introduce these crazy knuckleheads along for the ride as well. We got a Gabe Cooper.
Go on.
The Dr. David Pizza and the Reverend Ben Winsey. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
Tracy, you somehow managed to make that even more ridiculous than the original, so I salute you.
I've heard that song a billion times, and if you hadn't told me that that's what you were doing, I wouldn't have known that's what you were doing. I just would have thought you were spontaneously having a stroke, so I'm glad to see that you're okay.
I just, Tracy loves scat, man. That's just like a thing that we know about Tracy. How are you, Gabe?
Pretty well, thank you.
Okay, well, that was an intro, ladies and gentlemen.
It sure was. It was the intro that this album deserves, I think.
That's fair.
Oh, man. And we are talking about Ragnarök, the fifth studio album by Gwar, released on October 24th, 1995, released on Metal Blade Records. Robert Margalef was the producer, as a runtime of 47 minutes and 11 seconds. The band is Dave Brocky, Odorous Drunkens on lead vocals, Pete Lee, Flatus Maximus, lead guitars and backing vocals, Mike Dirks as Ballsack, the Jaws of Death, rhythm guitar and backing vocals, Casey Orr as Beat Kick the Mighty, bass backing vocals and lead vocals on Crush, Kill, Destroy, Brad Roberts, Righteous Mac de Cachette on drums, Dave Muscle on keyboards and samples, bass Muscle, Daniel Stepp as Sylvester Hyman, lead vocals on Fire in the Loins, Chuck Varga, the Sexecutioner, lead vocals on Ragnarök, Don Drekulik, Sleazy P. Martini, lead vocals on Think You Ought to Know This, Hunter Jackson as Cardinal Sin, lead vocals on Surf of Sin, uncredited, and Jenna Anderson, backing vocals on None But the Brave.
I think you ought to know this.
A lot of people.
I'm glad you have to edit this episode.
Edit? What are you talking about?
Yeah, we're not going to edit this, Tracy. This is straight to DVD. This is going straight to Laserdisc.
As it should.
I am going to open by saying, it's like a disclaimer, I probably feel about this album the way Tracy feels about Volume 3 of Slipknot.
Really?
So
Interesting.
And it is probably entirely in emotional nostalgia, this is my favorite Gwar album, period. And the one I've listened to by far the most. And I think that is because of the momentum of America Must and Toilet Earth landed me on this. But I listened to this shit a ton, and this is the one that all the way up to the present, even when I listened to Outlast Metal, I was still listening to this album. This was the one. And that, I hear Ben got off the ride. It's very interesting.
No, I did. Yeah, this was I had listened to the albums up to this one, and I listened to this one, and there were some high points on it, but I was just, this one didn't, I was like,
It's different.
Yeah, it's very different. And I think that in some ways the Gwarness of the last albums, I won't say it's gone, but had evolved. Because it's still over the top, but I didn't feel that it had quite the levels of social commentary that the previous albums did. In some ways, this was a lot more. Gwar doesn't have to try to be funny. Gwar just is funny, but they're letting a lot more. There's humor come through in this, and they're leaning into the space tyrants they're mercenaries from another place, really heavy on this, which is cool. But they're doing it less. They're doing it more comically, I guess, or that's how I felt at the time. So it was not as in your face or transgressive, even though it's still plenty as transgressive as the previous albums have been.
I can see that. And then I'll shut up. I know I've said a lot. I just love this album so much. But I think this is where, and I've said this about other albums, and you guys are going to make fun of me, but the whimsy on this particular album, I feel like this is where the heavy and the whimsy are at the correct balance. Because there's sometimes where it's almost gone, and I still like those albums, but they're not as funny as this. I guess maybe it's harder to listen for that some reason. And then there's other ones that aren't as heavy as this album is. I agree with you, it is not as angry about Reagan, but part of that is Reagan was over. I think part of there's a political thing that's happened where the target now is a more abstract thing. Though what I love, and again, this is the problem with the stage show and the movies, this Cardinal Sin arc was like 3 albums long. and was in the stage shows already back in America. And how the fuck would you know that listening to that album? You wouldn't. But they even appear, you see them in the Road Behind video.
Yeah.
That's them. And it is a more abstract, more sci-fi, straight sci-fi discussion of theocracy. So it's like still very much like we hate the fucking church, which is what it's about. But they are very outer space. But and you know, there's a lot you could maybe take this album down for. Maybe I guess you guys will, but for whatever reason, it just was the right album at the right time, and so I listened to it thousands of times. For which I apologize to everyone.
No reason for that. So, Gabe and Tracy, what do you guys think about it? As probably newer ears to it than me and David were.
It's interesting that David says that he finds that this is the right balance of heavy and whimsical. I think there's a lot of silliness on this record, and I think it's probably a little bit too silly a lot of the time, instead of like, you know, being funny. You know, I think there's a big difference between the kind of humor that's on the last record and the one before that we listened to. So This Toilet Earth and America Must Be Destroyed. And this record, we're like, I think like 50% of these songs are just silly and kind of nonsense. But that said, there are some really good tunes on this. And I did enjoy it, but I thought that, yeah, there's like a lot of like kind of like rando British accent on this record. Rando accents period that just don't make any sense. And it's like, okay, that's supposed to be funny, but it just struck me as kind of like weird and like it didn't belong. And again, I ran into the problem of like, I don't know the movie that this is supposed to accompany, and you know, there are certain songs on here that just don't make any sense unless they're, you know, they're understood in the context of the plot that's being put forward in these movies. Like the song that is ostensibly about AIDS is not actually about AIDS. You know, it's about some other, you know, affliction that's happening from outer space or something. So if you take that as a song about AIDS, it's way too serious to be on a Gwar record. Like it's just way, way, way too serious. You know, like they do have political songs. I'm not going to deny them that. But like, if you just look at the way the record starts, it's like meat sandwich, and then like something about AIDS, like, which, you know, Dave Rocky, his brother died of AIDS. I mean,
indeed,
like that's really fucking serious, whether he means that, you know, to communicate that by like, you know, writing the song or not. That's in there, and it's a really stark contrast. So I think the pendulum swings a lot, you know, and I find it to be an imbalance.
I can see
but that's just me.
I saw so many. This is probably the tour I saw the most times, and this is to me captured in some ways the best how he was as a person who managed crowds. Like that silliness was sort of integral, and I think needed given there's songs about HIV and Stalingrad on here. Like there's some really heavy shit on here.
Mm-hmm.
I admit it is rather silly, but the silly songs are so good. Like the one Tracy covered for us at the beginning.
Covers is putting it loosely.
No, that's a great one. I'm not going to deny that. That's really great.
Yeah. I Meat Sandwich also, and again, like this is such a cop out, and I apologize, but the video, y'all, he's like he dunks on Jesus, like it's literally just like a basketball court, and like Odorous and Jesus like challenge each other to 1-on-1 in basketball, and he just, you know, he destroys them.
That's the most 1995 thing ever.
It was so
awesome.
amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And anyway, so in many ways they were still doing that thing, but in a slightly more subtle way. I don't know. Anyway,
That was also the year that they had the Charles Barkley Ducks on Godzilla Adidas commercials or Nike commercials or whatever.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like this, on your point about the peak of whimsy and metalness, I guess you could say. I think this is definitely more whimsical than the previous two albums that we've done by them. It's just turned up to 11 on here. One of the things I think that why I feel like this album's so different, probably compared to This Toilet Earth, like sonically and genre bending and mixing wine, it's because I mean, like, you've got the meat sandwich, New Plague, and then like Dirty Filthy, you have the weird kind of slower Stalin's organs. You got Knife Your Guts, and then you get this weird like Biohazard style. Think you got to know this kind of touch to it as well. Like that, like every time I heard that song, it was me like Biohazard and Billy Bio. That's where my musically in the genre where it kind of clicked with me.
You can blame that on the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
And but this album has like that touch of whimsical. I think that it's interesting, and what Gabe was saying about the New Plague, like I feel like that, you know, the song's about like a different virus. It's not necessarily AIDS, but like you could definitely draw parallels to AIDS. But I don't think he's like talking about it like when I first heard it. I was like, holy shit, like he's disparaging AIDS. And then like you look at the lyrics, like, oh wait, actually no, he's kind of pretty pissed about the way Reagan administration treated the AIDS epidemic and kind of fucked a lot of people. And it's just like, huh. So it's kind of like that when we did Pelagia All by the Ocean, when you're like, are you talking about ocean? Are you talking about the ocean? Are you talking about global warming? Or are you talking about your mother? You're kind of going on 3 different levels here. And so like I kind of got that vibe on a couple of tracks on this album as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I very well could be, but isn't it the character that, isn't it supposed to be somebody with AIDS looking at this alien infection and being bitter about the way that that's being treated as opposed to how AIDS was handled? Or am I misreading that and misremembering it?
I'm not sure it's entirely clear. As Gabe said, like, is it from outer? I think it is deliberately ambiguous.
Probably so.
Right, because I've listened to this song. We've done this with a couple other songs. I'm like, wait, is that the perspective? Like, I started trying to flip and imagine who was talking. I mean, to me, I'm very aware of the situation with his brother and the grotesque wasteland of tens of thousands of dead that the previous administration completely fucking ignored. And I know Gwar hated them for that. So, yeah, at first glance, you're like, oh my God, you're just gonna all plagues matter AIDS or whatever's happening in here, but it's I think there's more going on here.
I think it's also worth noting that this was recorded and released in '95. So I think a lot of that hatred, some would say legitimately so, towards the previous 2 administrations is subsumed by the fact that we are now in the first Democratic administration in 12 years. So a sense of hope, if you will, in the mid-decade.
For sure. Though, man, they still fucking hated Tipper Gore, right?
Yeah.
That's in the mix with them, because that shit came from it wasn't the left. What passes for the left in the United States? Anyway, it was from Tipper Gore. It came from Tipper Gore.
But I mean, you know, that there was a different sense in the chair, especially after coming out of the war and everything. So
I get it. No, I agree with that 100%. I'm simply saying there were still things they hated. That's all I'm saying. You're right.
And they would come to hate later on, but this is
yes. I do not think it is a coincidence that it is 2004 when they are re-enraged and it becomes metal again.
Mm-hmm.
And the album is called Violence Has Arrived, but we will be on that particular journey at a later time.
Indeed we will. But I do think, I mean, I appreciate the sense of whimsy here. It you know, especially coming off that last album.
Yes.
So.
Yes. My wife and child will also say I'm an extremely silly person, so I guess this right in there. It's like heavy but completely ridiculous. I almost prefer completely ridiculous to the level of intensity that America Must Be Destroyed and Toilet Earth require of a human. I don't know. It's a lot. That's a lot of cylinders to have to run on. So part of me, maybe this is, you know, Tracy's Iowa to Volume 3 moment. Like, to me, it's a little more listenable.
It sounds kind of like that.
I think it is a little like that.
Yeah.
Like, I could listen to this album 2 or 3 times through in a way that, Jesus, I guess I did that some with the other ones. But anyway, this movie, though, was not as good as the previous one because they had so much less money. It was sad. It was still cool, but you could tell, you know, everything. It was just a whole train wreck with the censored track on the previous album and losing the distribution. And fuck, dude, because they were supposed to be at the peak of their power, and then just their stage show got smaller. Like, I watched them shrink very rapidly.
Man, there's no telling how much that financially screwed them over.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm sure.
Billions.
You know, yeah. because you're right. I mean, they were on the precipice of really
They
kind
were.
of breaking out, and who knows how much they would have considering their dudes in costumes and everything like that. But I mean, Slipknot really broke out a few years later.
Yes, they could have been
And
Juggalo
Kiss
band.
had, you know, decades before. Definitely.
You're right. They could have at least been, you know what I mean? Because and Gwar, there's so many diehard fans. I'm one of them. One of my very good friends, Neil. You know, he's really into them, but they just never created a footprint like Slipknot or Insane Clown Posse. I'm like Juggalos, man.
They toured together, and I think I mentioned that before. I always, and maybe it was because I was more of a metal fan first, but I always had a sense that Gwar was bigger than ICP, but probably not actually around
Probably
the Great
not, dude.
Malenko. Yeah.
I doubt
I
it.
think-
Not after this.
I think what made ICP never really got financial backing either, outside of like the Great Milenko and the Amazing Chuckle Brothers. I think for the difference between them is Gwar as a band and as an umbrella of releasing other bands of similar style is just Gwar. And so you really had them as a singular entity. While with ICP, you have the Twisted, you have the other
Sure.
bands that clashed onto them that also kind of built that nebulous around them. And it's easier to do when you're worrying about two people as opposed to a band to do it, you
Yes.
know?
And I gotta say, Gwar, of course, between the number of people in the band and the number of people they're supporting back in Richmond and the cost of all this, it was so capital intensive. Jesus, the movies to get them made in the first place, because they're like all self-financed, other than I think that one. The stage shows, like their enormous amount of their capital went back into the stage show. So I think they were left with a hell of a lot less at the end of the day.
I think that first point is a really good one because you think about now, oh, they made videos. This is not a time when people had like a high quality video that they were carrying around in their pocket. That was like old school shoulder cameras and
Correct.
everything else. Yeah.
I mean,
Shit.
Kevin Smith made a career off of off of one movie on the cheap for 50,000. So I mean,
Yeah, but that like did really well. I think it had all kind of critical buzz and stuff. It's
Yeah.
not the same as making the videos.
I mean,
Gwar was making.
I don't know, especially and the costumes themselves probably cost thousands of dollars in their own right.
I mean, Gwar took in the name of free speech, a giant shit in their own oatmeal. And I
Sure.
respect them for it.
I do
But
too.
given the capital intensive nature and the sheer number of them, it meant that everyone ended up pretty poor.
They have to have spent like a couple $100 a show on fluid that was being
Easy.
pumped into
Oh,
the
I bet you it was
audience.
more than that.
Yeah, probably, but you know,
Just that shit. No, I'm with you, dude. That kind of thing.
What you
There's
don't
nothing-
understand
Yeah.
is in their poor moments, they were both sitting there, just clutch the vein open and let it pour and just bleed out onto it.
Oof, Trey has a thought style. Yeah, I don't, that's not very whimsical. But anyway, they spent a lot of money on being Gwar. And Dave Brocky died as like a grown-ass man, but like living with roommates. And like, maybe he was having fun, but like he didn't. Anyway,
I mean, to an extent, he was having fun until that last moment.
I guess.
I mean, some
was-
of us are still grown ass men living with roommates, so
I get it, but you don't. Yeah, but you don't have a fucking band that's so like I'm like the sheer amount of money.
for
that's-
sure, I haven't sold millions of records.
Jesus Christ, you're a grad student, dude. When I was a grad student, I was living that same way. This man has sold. They sold. I have probably total at least 1 million, right? I mean, they're not Kiss or anything, but they've moved units. Did we
Yeah,
lose
I
Ben
mean-
entirely? Ben's like, how dare you insult my roommate?
Yeah, when he said the comment about a roommate, his roommate's like,
The
huh?
problem is
And
not
I was-
roommates.
and
The problem is
she-
needing roommates, Tracy, when you are in your almost 60 and have had a band that was on fucking MTV. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
That made, I mean, around the time of America Must Be Destroyed, they had to be making so much money.
That's
I
what
mean, who knows what their deal was with the label or whatever, how
Sure.
much the cut of that was, but they got really, really big, really fast. I mean, Elektra's not
They
going to
did.
come sniffing if they don't see a lot of potential dollar signs.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with living with roommates, but like, you want to be in a mansion when you're a rock star, right? Like you're supposed to be MC hammering it, even if
Mhm.
then everyone mooches off you and you lose all your money. But Dave Brocky died real poor. I mean,
Yeah.
but doing what he loved, being odorous around us.
but I'm pretty sure they're probably happy. I don't know, maybe not now, but that's the decision they wanted to make, and that's who they were as people. I mean,
It is.
would you think the band would still be seen in the light if they'd made the financial?
Oh, I have no idea. Who knows? They could have been a flash of the pan like green jelly. I don't know how serious the commitment would have been. It would have depended how the units moved, Tracy. Now they would have probably attracted a lot more unwanted / wanted attention. And really the real question would have been how would they have responded if suddenly they were like going gold or whatever, platinum, and concerned housewives of America are trying to annihilate them, how that struggle played out. Like if they rolled over, I think eventually I don't know. A lot of what ifs.
Yeah, I think that if they had, it depends on if they could have kept it quiet that they agreed to remove the track or not, because that was so antithetical.
Then there's that. Yes.
Yeah.
I was just thinking in terms of what the world would look like when a Gwar that actually had kept getting money. But yeah, you're right. That would have been potentially not great. Well, I mean, that's how butt metal happens, I imagine, Ben, right? Those kinds of compromises.
The line from Gwar to 500 F is a little less clear.
That's the path to butt metal, but we'll take care of that in a subsequent episode. Should we do tracks? I feel like we've been all though I'm happy to talk about this album all day. Obviously, I'd like it.
Gabe, you want to start us off?
Okay. So I already said that I enjoy Meat Sandwich. It's a good opener. I don't get what the deal is with the British accent, but whatever. I also can't wait for the novel War Ghoul. I'll attack that one day. But it's a pretty cool song, pretty epic. Yeah, we haven't really talked about this yet, but the musical theater elements of Gwar and like the epicness of some of these tracks is like, you can come back to the albums for those, like the Insidious soliloquy and those kinds of things. But Warkle, I think, even though it's not like a dramatic reading, it's still pretty awesome. Dirty Filthy, love it. Very simple, very effective. There are a lot of World War II references on this record, including Stalin's organ. I really don't understand that song. It makes no sense to me what it's doing there, but okay. Knife in Your Guts is a real romantic tune. I enjoy that. I also liked Fire in the Loins, a duet. Surf of Sin is also pretty chill. And Crush, Kill, Destroy is sort of back to the thrash roots, right? So I dig that. The other stuff is kind of fillery, gets old sort of fast, whereas, without the film, Martyrdom makes absolutely no sense. It's like, what did Gwar all of a sudden become a black metal band? Like, no, they're just like having a bit of fun, and it has to do with the movie plot. But like, if you haven't seen the movie, it makes no sense. So you can just leave it out. It's not my cup of tea.
I guess I can go next before David comes in and says he likes them all. Meat Sandwich is a fun song, but it's not something that I want to listen to a whole lot. I mean, it's something that I want to come back to when I've kind of forgotten it and be entertained by it all over again. So in that way, it's kind of like hearing a joke over and over. But I do like the New Flag. Ragnarok, I really enjoy. Dirty Filthy, as you said. Things You Ought to Know, or Think You Ought to Know This is pretty good. Fire in the Loins, man, those lyrics are sometimes challenging, but it is a good and catchy song. But like you said in the last episode, Gabe, if you're listening, are you listening to Gwar if you're not offended? Surf of Sin is okay, and Crush, Kill, Destroy I think it's really good. I don't like that with the Brave. I think that is a really weak closer.
For me, I enjoyed Meat Sandwich. I think it's a great opener. The New Plague, even though it's kind of, I think it's a good song. It's not something I want to hear on a regular basis, though. It is kind of a challenge just going to hear without breaking it down. It kind of pisses you off. You're like, really? And then it's like, oh, okay. Of course, Dirty Filthy. That song was stuck in my head for fucking days after hearing it. It's still stuck in my head. I felt like I should treat you guys to my rendition of it so much that it's stuck in my head. Stalin's organs. I enjoy the little progginess, kind of like that weird bit in the beginning of it. I enjoy that little touch there. I think Martyrdom is pretty good, but I think past that and Fire in the Loins, and I think after that, yeah, Fire in the Loins.
I like them all. No, I do like nearly all of these songs. Beat Sandwich is an amazing opener. New Plague is difficult, but it's Gwar. Wargle is fucking epic. And I can't remember if this specifically, there was comic book stuff that was about this theme for sure. And I feel like Wargle and Stalin's organs are, I mean, essentially plot-wise related. That's what they're sort of jumping around there. But again, we can talk about, what did you say? Don't fanboy Hitler. I don't think they are, but anyway, there's a lot happening here.
Well, I mean, what you could say is that they mention Hitler very gratuitously on this record. Like, there's no reason for him to appear at Nudge, but he just is. So,
indeed.
like, it's not fanboying Hitler, but it's like, okay, it's gratuitous somehow.
Godwin's Law is invoked.
I'd say it's Godwin's Law, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But Wargle was an awesome song. I adore Ragnarok. It is very musical theater. Again, it is very Rocky Horror. That song is totally badass, and I like Executioner. It has not been allowed to have a song since Scum Dogs. Dirty Filthy is catchy as shit. I like Stalin's organs. Susie P. Martini is such a ridiculous character that just reminds me of my uncles. So I get a real kick out of that song. I like Martyrdom, but again, I guess I've seen the movie. Exactly, you say Fire in the Loins is both very catchy, and I love that it was a duet, but some of those lyrics. Anyway, I like Surf of Sin a lot, but again, it's related to the damn movie. I think None But the Brave is I think it's a pretty good closer. I don't dislike it as much as Ben, but I'm not gonna argue it's their strongest song either, but it's pretty epic, and there's weird whale songs and shit, so I don't know. I like this album, everyone, and that's my truth.
Yeah, I do feel that they had more fun on this album than I feel that they probably did the last two. And just in hearing the stuff around it, well, there wasn't as much controversy. There wasn't the anger going into it. I mean, maybe the tragedy with what happened to his brother, but I'm not sure on the timeline of that as opposed to the writing and recording of the album. So, with that said, let's go into grading this. I will go first. I'm going to give this album a C+, because I think that even though in some ways I like the other album before better, I enjoy listening to it more than I do this one, because like I said, this is the one where I kind of got off the ride with Gwar for a while. I do think that this is a really good good album. I like the playing, I like the production on it. Some of the songs are a little bit too whimsical or perhaps too fillery for me, but I think they are all very well played and put together very well. So I'm going to give it a slightly better grade.
I'll go next. I think this one overall is a step down from the previous one. I think it's a solid album though, so I am going to give it a low B at 84.
Well, I think I'm going to give this album a 79, maybe a 79.5. I think it's okay, but it's not nearly as good as the last two records that we heard, and it does have to do with a balance of silliness and interesting sort of musicality to the tracks. The songs that I like on here, I do like, but it's just there aren't that many of them. So just for hardcore fans.
I am that hardcore fan, and I like silly, and this is my favorite Gwar album. So I'm going to, this is probably the biggest gap I've ever had with the rest of you. I'm going to give this album an A+. I will die on that hill. And I know it has problems, but I don't care. The heart wants what the heart wants.
It's true love.
I love this album.
Did Robin run away after you played this album for her? Obviously not. So
I mean, I took her to an actual Gwar show, Tracy. Like only months into knowing her, so the trial by fire was long complete before she heard this. Gwar Brothers are less than a lot of other shit, actually. Well, it is not nearly as harsh. The thing she can't stand is precisely when like Randy Blythe comes in. You're like, ah, shit, right? She's like, oh, this is kind of rocky, and then she's like, nope, I'm out. So she can't. If there's no melody, she can't do it.
Well, sure, and I think that if you and this is outside of the thing, but it's something that we could touch a little bit on in the last review, and not necessarily in this one. The experience of Gwar, what I'm giving the grades of the albums, are not the same thing. Because Gwar as a band, I really like. I love the idea of it. I never got to see them live in person, but some like clips and the videos and stuff like that, and love it. But as an album, I just don't think they're that strong.
Yeah, I believe that. I was on the ride so hard at this point. I was super fanning hard in terms of going to the shows, and
yeah,
I was doing that shit even when I was working at Murray State. I mean, it's been a while, but and now I'm not sure I can. It's sort of too heartbreaking. But yeah, I was on this ride real hard, and this is when I, was at the top of the roller coaster, and I stood up, and my hands vanished. Whatever just happened. There it is. There it is. What are we doing next, Tracy?
Next, we are staying on this crazy ass Gwar ride and going into a carnival of chaos.
You know why? Because it's October. This is our October band, the spooky season, our Spooktacular.
It is spectacular. I think I'll have more traumatic experience with Gwar than I did with Paradise Lost.
That's probably true. You chose it, Tracy.
I
That's
did.
one. That's one thing. I felt no guilt at all in any of this because it wasn't my idea.
Oh, I feel no guilt anyway because the youngins got to learn. As I say.
Yeah, they gotta learn their VHS Gwar from somewhere.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Thunderdome Metal Reviews, and catch us next time as the Spooktacular rolls on.